We're good. I'd like to call this meeting to order. I want to welcome everyone to the School District of Waukesha's Board of Education Teaching and Learning Committee for Tuesday, May 5th, 2020. Before we begin the meeting this evening, I just have something that I'd like to read as a shout out. I would like to take this time this evening for a special shout out to all of our teachers on National Teacher Appreciation Day. Thank you for your ongoing commitment to the high expectations and the student success that you offer each day, for all of your extra efforts both in and out of the classroom, and for remaining current through all of your professional development opportunities. We are very fortunate to have you in the School District of Waukesha, and we are proud of the many ways that you demonstrate excellence on a daily basis. Congratulations, and know that you are appreciated for the many positive ways that you impact your students, your schools, and our community. Thank you very much. We are on to the agenda for this evening. First of all, with general business. Stacy, could you verify that this meeting has been properly posted?
Yes, it has been posted.
Thank you very much. And then we move on to any citizens joining us this evening, Stacy?
We have Michelle Dolby on the meeting. Let me see if I can allow her to speak. Michelle, did you plan to address the committee tonight?
No, I did not.
Okay, thank you. Okay, that was it.
Okay, without any citizens this evening, hopefully next month, we move on to our action items this evening. The first action item is the approval of the Teaching and Learning Committee meeting minutes from our April 14th meeting.
I move for approval.
Mr. Como moves for approval.
Mr. O'Brien.
Second by Mr. Baumgart.
The motion was by Kurt O'Brien.
Thank you.
Second by Mr. Baumgart.
Yes.
Any comments or additions, changes to the minutes? Okay, seeing none, this action item has been properly motioned and seconded. All in favor, please say aye. Should we do roll call? Okay, go ahead.
Yeah.
Let's do roll call.
Amanda Roddy,
Aye.
Kurt O'Brien,
Aye.
William Baumgart,
Aye.
Como,
Aye.
and Greg Dietz.
Aye. Motion passes 5-0. Stacy, thank you.
Thank you.
The next action item this evening, we have approval of elementary phonics word study workshop. We are looking at the recommendation to approve the benchmark phonics word study workshop for grades kindergarten through 5th grade, beginning in the 2020-2021 school year at the cost of $226,317 for a 6-year agreement for print and digital materials. And we have Melissa Yao, the Director of Elementary Learning, here this evening to walk us through the recommendation in this action item. So I'll turn it over to Melissa.
Hi, thank you. I'm here tonight to ask you for approval for the resource of the Benchmark Phonics Word Study Workshop for grades kindergarten through 5th grade. We're asking that we'd be able to start this resource beginning this next school year of the 2020-2021 school year. And this would be a 6-year agreement that would include 4 days of professional development training and would include all of the print and digital resources that we have shared with you about over the last prior to 2 months. So are there any final questions that anyone has before you move towards a decision?
Correct question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you. Melissa, just real fast, can you remind me, what was the plan for the dual language classes? I know that this program didn't have exactly what our students are currently accustomed to.
Yes, so in dual language, our students are learning in both English and Spanish. This has a Spanish component as well, but it's 2 complete programs, and that's not how our students learn. Our students learn in dual through simultaneous and bridged experiences. And so the way that this program is laid out, it would be too bulky of a program. So they are dual language educators with D have this year, they already are implementing elements that are based off of this same philosophy, but there's not a resource that meets the needs of the way that we instruct in dual language.
Okay, but the printed materials and things like that, they'd still be able to use all of those resources?
No, those are just going to be in our monolingual. Yep, they are creating those resources for dual language.
They're creating them. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I have a
Mr.
question.
Baumgart. Mr. Baumgart.
Melissa, when you were giving us the second presentation on this, I think you were beginning to talk about some places where we've been piloting things, and I don't know if that's maybe not the right word, but you were starting to work with some groups, weren't you?
Yes, we
And
piloted the program at Hillcrest and at Whittier.
Yes. How are they going?
They're going great. Actually, they're still using the resources right now, even while we're in our virtual situation, because they do have virtual materials and they're able to build things and keep things ongoing, which has been really nice and unexpected. It wasn't part of the plan, but it's nice to know that those places that have been piloting are still continuing to be able to use those resources to support learning right now.
Great. Thank you. That's what I wanted to hear.
Anything else for Melissa as far as questions, comments?
Greg?
Yes, Mr. Baumgart.
I'm going to make a motion then, and move to approve the benchmark phonics study workshop for grades K through 5, excuse me, beginning the 2021 school year at the cost of $226,317 for a 6-year agreement for materials and print.
Thank you,
And I
Mr.
so
Baumgart.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Mr. Como, for the second. Any further discussion, questions, comments? Just want to thank you, Melissa, to your team for all your hard work. I know that you've done extensive research on this, and you've also put it into practice within the district to give you that benchmark of success. And we look forward to seeing it unravel next year, along with all the professional development that goes along with it. Really appreciate your leadership once again in this area, as well as the other areas that you're involved with. So thank you very much for all your work behind the scenes.
Thank you all for your support. It's been great to have the support of our principals, our coaches, our teachers, and want to thank Hillcrest and Whittier for piloting and giving their feedback and being so invested. And we really look forward to seeing the impact in the upcoming years this is going to have on our learners in our system. So thank you all for your support. And now we get to work.
Mr. Como.
Thank you, Greg. Melissa, I forgot how the PD is going to be handled, if it's going to be train the trainer or if every single teacher will receive the training.
Sure, great question. It's going to be a combination. So at Summer Institute in August, each grade level will have a half-day training where trainers will be coming in and facilitating that. So trainers from Benchmark Education. And then we will have another training for our literacy coaches, and then they will continue with that ongoing professional development, because we didn't want this to just be a one and done, like we set you up and off you go. So it's going to be ongoing training that we are going to have, and not just year one, but also in year two and following up with coaches and also teacher leaders to support our teachers in their ongoing learning.
Excellent. I like that. I like that approach. I think that could obviously be more effective as it's spread out over time, and you learn different things each year, and you have different kind of aspects that come up, and people can share. And I like that a lot. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. And we've also worked with the company in case we are not face to face come our dates in August. They are able to provide that same professional development virtually if it's needed. So we do have a plan A and a plan B.
Oh, okay. Fantastic.
Anything else from the committee members? Okay, this action item has been properly motioned and seconded. At this time, I'm going to ask for a roll call vote from Stacy.
Joseph Como,
Aye.
William Baumgart, O'Brien,
Aye.
Amanda Roddy,
Aye.
Greg Dietz.
Aye. Passes 5-0, Stacy. Thank you very much, Melissa. Have a good evening. Yep.
Thank you, you too.
We're moving on to the discussion information item portion of our agenda this evening. And we are beginning with an AVID data update. AVID stands for Advancement via Individual Determination. It's a research-based K through 16 college readiness system. AVID requires and equips students with intellectual skills and behaviors for academic success in rigorous coursework. AVID empowers students with strategies necessary to navigate the educational landscape through an explicit focus on high expectations for our students. AVID improves organizational and study skills, develops critical thinking and collaboration, and exposes students to college. So at this time, we have Amanda Wagner here, our AVID coordinator. She's going to be giving us an update on where we are in the district with AVID, and then give all of us an opportunity to ask any questions that we have this evening. So I'll turn it over at this time to Amanda Wagner.
Thank you, Mr. Dietz, and thank you all for having me here tonight. I'm going to have Stacy put up a PowerPoint that I'm just going to talk through with a little bit of information for us. And on that next slide, you will see our Waukesha AVID, we call him our AVID guy. So see if you can advance for me. We have AVID school-wide, which is best instructional practices for all of our scholars in our district. And when we talk about our AVID system as a whole, we'll start with AVID Elementary. AVID Elementary means all of our students who are part of the AVID system are AVID scholars. There's no elective at the elementary level. It really means all students. When we move into the secondary level, we have the AVID school-wide component focusing on writing, inquiry, collaboration, organization, and reading. And we also have some supports for our students who may need them, being the AVID elective. The AVID elective starts at 7th grade and goes through 12th grade. And it's really intended for students who are middle to high academic. Many students have some obstacles that are, they're working through. Many of our students in the elective are underserved in the college-going population, and many of them are first-generation college-going students. We also have a new addition to our AVID family this year, and that's AVID Excel. AVID Excel is in our 7th and 8th grade levels, and it is for academic language learners. The difference between the AVID elective and AVID Excel is in AVID Excel, language comes first. So we're building the academic language of our scholars with the hopes of then having them roll into the AVID elective their 9th grade year. And we'll talk more about these as we go through the presentation. Up here, you see a nice little triangle. This is our college and career readiness triangle that AVID Center put out this year. And as we look at this, I just want to key in on how closely this aligns with the work that we're already doing in Waukesha. So through the AVID system, we are really guaranteeing that we want to give students, when we look at the top of the triangle, we want to make sure that our students have rigorous academic preparedness. We want to make sure that they're given opportunity knowledge. We are not saying with AVID that every student needs to attend a four-year college. We are giving them the ability and the option to be college ready. And if they choose to take that path, fantastic. If they choose to take the path of a trade, of a two-year program, or of the military, that is also wonderful. We're exposing them and giving them that opportunity knowledge. Those two things build inside the student agency that drive determination that we want our students to have to keep doing things that empower themselves, giving them the best versions of themselves. So that's what we want for our students. In order for that to happen, we need to insist on some things from our educators. So at the bottom of that triangle, underneath where it says college and career readiness, we are going to insist on rigor in all of our classes and all of our content areas. That will help give our kids that academic preparedness and that opportunity knowledge. Educators are also going to break down barriers so that nothing is standing in the way of our learners. We'll work on aligning the work, which we're continuing to do through our SAIL process, through the use of our coaching and certification instrument with AVID, through our PLCs, and most importantly, we continue as educators to advocate for all of our students. Stacey? So let's dive in a little bit and just look at where we are as a system. In terms of elementary, when we talk about elementary AVID, we have 4 schools currently. Hillcrest and Meadowbrook came on this year, so they're year 1 AVID schools. Lowell and Higher are in their 2nd year of implementation. At the elementary, all of our kids are AVID scholars. We're really continuing to focus in on organization of our time, of our thinking, and of materials. We're working on taking and making focus notes and using those notes so that they don't just sit on the iPad or sit in our backpacks. We want to make sure that when we're taking the notes, we use them for an instructional purpose, and we're using strategies to engage all learners. And through these pictures, I would like to just point out that we're building on the work that we're already doing in the elementary schools, especially with the CLM model. Our kids are critically reading, they're investigating, they're having rich discourse. Stacey? Another big celebration for elementary would be the culture. Our students are proud to be AVID scholars. Here you have 2 students very willing to share their agendas to some of our visitors at a school-wide spotlight that we hosted. And here is just a cute little poem that I found sitting on a table that a 4th grade scholar wrote. I'm an AVID scholar. I come prepared and focused to learn daily. I concentrate doing my schoolwork. I follow all school expectations on a daily basis. I make the right choices for me. I do not let anyone interfere with my learning. I respect and follow rules every day. I'm an AVID scholar forever. And I don't know whose it was. It was just sitting there on the table, and I thought, how neat is this? Stacey? So moving up to secondary, here's where it gets, where we have that AVID guy and those different supports. Again, the school-wide, promoting the career and culture of college readiness, making sure that our improved academic performance for all students, and most importantly, giving our teachers researched best practices with a common language for instruction. We have that elective, and we have Excel. So let's start with our middle school and hear a little bit about the updates. Stacey? We currently have middle school AVID at Les Paul, Butler, and Horning. Les Paul and Butler expanded to have AVID elective at both the 7th and 8th grade levels this year. Horning, it was our first year with AVID elective in 8th grade, and they had so many students who qualified and wanted to be part of AVID that we actually had 2 sections of 8th grade, which was absolutely phenomenal. Middle school, we've been focusing heavily on just the fidelity of the AVID elective, making sure that we are up and running smoothly, that our tutorials that happen twice a week are happening for student inquiry, and that we're also building capacity in our middle school teachers, doing a lot of professional development across the 3 middle schools, especially when it comes to, I would say there's a heavy focus on focused note-taking and collaboration. And next year there will be a heavy focus on organization. Stacy? Also happening at the middle school level is AVID Excel. And AVID Excel, again, we are in our very first year of AVID Excel, and through Excel we are focused on our English language learners. Typically a student who would be in AVID Excel is at an access level of anywhere from like a 2.5 to about a 4.5 or a 5. And Excel provides our scholars with routines. One of the things that you will notice when you walk into an Excel classroom right away is kids in the first 10 minutes will read, write, and produce academic language. And they produce a lot of it because that is our focus on that academic language. They do this through routines such as scholar starters. They do this in scholar groups where they examine complex text, break it down, and ask questions of one another. There's also a lot of relational capacity that's being built in these classrooms. And what we're seeing is our kids are thriving. They're feeling very safe in the AVID Excel classroom, and they're starting to transfer being the scholar and being this leader into their other academic classes. So we're excited about Excel, and we're going to continue to grow that this coming year. Les Paul is looking to have a 7th and 8th grade section, and Butler is looking to also have a 7th and 8th grade section, and Horning will be doing a 7th, 8th split. Stacy? In terms of our high school celebrations, all 3 of our high schools have AVID. East also has an AVID system, and eAchieve also has AVID. When we look at our brick and mortar schools, all 3 of our sites are certified. We do a coaching and certification instrument once a year that's done in May, so we're working through those right now virtually. And last year's data, both North and West were certified. South became a site of distinction. South has had AVID for 11 years, and this site of distinction is a very challenging certification level to get. In fact, in our state right now, Mequon has the certification, Madison East, I should say Homestead High School, Madison East, and Waukesha South are the only high schools with this certification. This means that 70% of all teachers at South High School have AVID training. 85% of all South students, not AVID students, all South students have been accepted into either a college or a military, which is a huge celebration when we think about 85% of a population of a high school. And 61% of our 11th graders and 79% of all South students, our 12th graders, taking at least one AP or Project Lead the Way class. Again, all students, not just AVID students. So when we look at what AVID school-wide means, it means increasing opportunities for all students and increasing achievement. Stacy? AVID's also bringing some organizational coherence to our district. One thing we've implemented in the past 2 years are AVID walks. We started this at our high school levels and our middle schools to see the instructional practices, to help buildings make connections with one another, and to make sure that the training we're providing for teachers has transfer. We opened it up this year and have also started at our elementary schools. We were so impressed with what we were seeing at some of our elementary schools that we've been doing some spotlights. So inviting our high school and our middle school and our other elementary principals, teachers, coaches to come on into Lowell, and higher, and to see the practices in action, to talk to the students, and to learn from one another. We received a lot of positive feedback from these spotlights, and we plan to do some at the elementary level next year, as well as the middle and high school level. So working on that vertical, horizontal articulation. South this year hosted a showcase, and we had 32 members from our district attend. It was supposed to be the biggest AVID showcase in Wisconsin, and then COVID happened, and we weren't allowed to have other visitors from other districts come in. But South is on the journey to become a national demonstration school for AVID, hopefully next school year. Stacy? In terms of teachers being trained, that's super important in order for us to continue growing as an AVID district, is to provide our teachers with those opportunities. As you look down the list, you'll see with our AVID schools, a smaller school like East, we have 90% of our teachers trained. And when you go into East, you're going to see some commonalities with instruction, with organization systems. It's just how they do business there. Again, we continue to grow. Our training, it counts if our teachers have attended a summer institute, a PATH training, or 12 hours of face-to-face or virtual training done by one of our AVID trainers in the district. And we're growing our capacity with those AVID trainers through professional development, so allowing more people to be able to deliver this great professional learning. We plan to attend some institutes this summer if we're allowed to attend face-to-face. If we're not, we have some digital options available, and we're planning on bringing some PATH trainings back to Waukesha in August. We continue to get great support from our teachers, and again, seeing what they're learning, transferring back with their students. Stacy? And now some time for some data. So how do we know it's working? In terms of the attendance data that you're going to see, you're only seeing secondary data because, again, with our AVID elementary students, we can't really disaggregate that because all of our students are AVID students at the elementary level. So on the left-hand side, you're going to see an all-school attendance rate. On the right-hand side, you're going to see our AVID elective and AVID Excel student attendance rate. So you're going to notice that most of our schools, our AVID students have a higher attendance rate than our non-AVID counterparts there. And why I think this is important is because a lot of our AVID students aren't necessarily the kids who are like, yay, I love school, I want to go every single day, it's absolutely amazing. They are students who have some obstacles, who need sometimes that extra motivation, that individual determination. They are outperforming their peers in terms of attendance. So it's showing us that they're buying into what AVID is, and they're also taking great pride in being an AVID scholar. Stacy? I want to take us back to thinking about the goals of that college and career readiness framework, that we want to provide opportunities for our students and rigorous coursework. So let's look at our students taking advanced placement or Project Lead the Way classes in 1920. So this year's students. When we look across the board, it's broken up by schools, and I put their colors on there. We have our 9th grade. So if we look over at North AVID, 32% of our 9th grade AVID students at North are taking an advanced placement or Project Lead the Way class versus all of North's student body at 29%. I want to highlight a little bit of South there, where if you look at every grade level, our AVID students are definitely South and North taking those AP classes or Project Lead the Way classes. West, we're only in year 2 of AVID, so we are continuing to grow, and we're very close, 50% versus 53 in 11th grade, and also knowing that we don't have AVID yet 12th grade at West. Next year will be our first year that we will have AVID in all four grade levels of all of our schools. In fact, At North and South, we're having additional sections of ninth grade. North will have 2 sections of ninth grade. South will have 3 sections of ninth grade. We're having so many sections because our middle school students who are in AVID in 8th grade are choosing to continue in AVID, which is awesome. And there's also demand from students who maybe couldn't be part of AVID in middle school because of elective choices, but feeling that they need that additional support in high school. Stacy? And, continuing in the virtual world, I just wanted to show you a little bit that we're still up and running. We have tutorials on the left-hand side. This is a crazy math problem. I think it was calculus, so I'm not even going to go there with what this all means. But our students are helping each other. They're really diving in, and the relational capacity that our kids have built, they are in WebEx teams, all hours of the day in there, posting points of confusion and getting help from one another, which has been a true testament to what AVID does for kids. We also continue to have professional learning for AVID teachers and all teachers. I was on a call today and I just took a screenshot. They said, okay, everybody put where you're from, and teachers from all over the nation working together. And I just want to point out how proud I am of the Waukesha School District. As I listen into some other districts, we are definitely ahead of the curve when it comes to how our teachers and students are embracing the instructional technologies that we have at our fingertips. So we're moving in a great direction. It's neat to think about 3 years ago, we had 2 schools who were AVID schools, and now we will have 15 next year with the addition of 2 elementary schools. What questions do you have for me?
Mr. Baumgart.
Yeah, Amanda, great information. You know that I just loved visiting the seniors there a couple weeks before they graduated. Obviously not this year. And I think this is the first year that North now has graduates. Is that correct?
It is. It's our first class for North.
And maybe this is premature and we could do it in June, but sometimes you've had some phenomenal reports on where the kids are going after graduation. And if you have them, fine. If not, we could do them. We could have those maybe in June sometime. So that's just something that I think has been such a tale to tell, in the past. I want to make sure we get to do that again.
We will absolutely. I'll put those reports together for you. We're sending them out to our kids probably mid-May. But I can tell you off the top of my head, I know that North and South have both classes have over $1 million in scholarships for about 26 to 29 kids in each of those classes. Students attending UW-Madison on full rides, the Art Institute of Chicago, lots of UW schools. UW-Milwaukee has been a huge place for our students to go this year. It seems to be kind of the forerunner, as well as Carroll. And our private schools are really stepping up and offering some great packages to our first generation college going students.
Great, thank you.
Anyone else? Mr. Como.
Thank you, Greg. Yes, Amanda, thank you for the presentation. Great presentation. I had a couple of questions. Our special needs students, can you talk about the program with the special needs students, how it might be different, or maybe it isn't different?
So the wonderful thing about AVID is its best instructional practices. And those instructional practices have lots of different scaffolds and supports that we can put in place for all of our students. We do have students in AVID, elective, and Excel who have IEPs. We also have some of our special education teachers who have resource hour, and they run their resource hour somewhat similar almost to an AVID elective class. So they're putting those practices into place in terms of organization, working on time management, focused note-taking, critical reading skills. Some of our AVID elective teachers are by trade special education teachers. So that's allowing them to transfer their knowledge and help not only in their resource, but as they co-teach and co-service our other students.
it would be nice to have an understanding of how this has impacted those students. I don't believe we've had any report on our special needs students in terms of the outcomes, any results.
I can definitely dive into our students who do have IEPs and provide you with an update. I know when I think about our senior class this year with some individual students who are college bound, who in talking with parents too about just, what changes have you seen? Things I've heard from parents, they're more outgoing, the self-confidence is there, organization is improving. So when a student is placed into that AVID elective, they have had success. But if you'd like, me to dive more into that, I can do that as well for you.
Yeah, I'd appreciate it. Some examples, maybe. I don't know, how much data you have, but if you have data, great. But some examples would be fantastic. I would appreciate that. I do have a second question. Every teacher every day has an opportunity to build relationships with students, and I was wondering if part of the training, the AVID training or the PD component, is there any aspect to relationship building? I didn't know if that's ever covered.
I'm so sorry, you cut out right at the very end for me. You were,
Okay. My question is I know every day students and teachers have the ability to build relationships with students. So I was wondering if any of the training for AVID or any of the PD for AVID offers a topic on how to build better relationships with students in AVID.
absolutely. So all the professional learning that AVID provides always starts out with building relational capacity with those in the room. So as a learner, we are going to embrace in activities that may make us feel somewhat uncomfortable, but we're going to get to know everybody. And then we're going to go and take those back into the classroom and understand why it's important that we all as students know each other's names and know about one another. There are some specific strands that are designed just around increasing that relational capacity, such as our culturally relevant teaching strand and empowering students. But when we do our PD, we try to bring that in no matter what. Even schools, some of our schools have been doing things like they call them fun teams or challenge groups and working on that relational capacity because it is something that some of our teachers just naturally have. And then for some of us, it's more of a stretch because it is somewhat uncomfortable.
Sure, sure. And like probably many teachers, uh, they, they have such positive impact on our students, but may never get the feedback from the students or the families necessarily. But I bet you in certain cases you do. Teachers do hear how those relationships have truly impacted their children, their students in a positive manner. So it's good to hear that that is actually part of the training. I appreciate that.
Mhm.
Anything else from any committee members? Amanda, do you have any plans that you could share at this time for next year regarding AVID?
Sure.
Anything that you're rolling out for next year?
Our goal next year is we're increasing with AVID Excel at our middle schools to continue to build that. We are also expanding our sections at our high schools and bringing on 2 new elementary schools. So we're just going to keep growing. My goal is for us to be an AVID district so that all of our kids have endless opportunities and, that advantage to do whatever they so choose to do so in life.
If anyone can get us there, you can.
Oh, thanks. We have a great team.
Anything else for Amanda this evening?
Thank you, Amanda.
Thank you very much for your continued leadership. We look forward to hearing more about AVID in the future, and we appreciate your time this evening, Amanda. Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Yeah, have a good night.
You too.
The next discussion information item we have this evening is an update on alcohol and other drug abuse, or AODA, what's happening with that in our district. And we have Luke Pinion, the Director of Student Services, and we also have Jody Ebinger Bentley. She's a social worker at East, here tonight to give us an update on AODA throughout the district. So I'll turn it over to Luke and Jody.
Board members, it's a pleasure to be in front of you again this evening, albeit a different means tonight. We did our AODA presentation last year around this time, and we just wanted to circle back with you and talk about some of the exciting developments that we've had this year. So I will be handing it over in a minute to one of our great social workers and our AODA coordinator, Jody Eminger Bentley. But first, we just wanted to recap. Stacy, if you want to bring up the slides. And you will see the T thrown in there too. So more recent terms really use the complete ATODA, which is alcohol, tobacco, and other drug abuse. So you'll be seeing that acronym more and more over the more historical AODA acronym. You can go to the next slide. So just as a recap, last year when we spoke in front of you, we talked about being an active member of the Waukesha County Drug-Free Communities Coalition and how that progressed over 10 years of a partnership, and that ended last year. We talked about implementing Peers for Peers clubs at three traditional high schools, as well as the implementation of Too Good for Drugs, a middle school ATODA curriculum at Butler and Horning. We also updated you with some data and information about the coordination of the Youth Risk Behavior Survey, which we do in alignment with the state and the DPI every other year now. And we talked about beginning our search for early intervention AODA programs. This year, we'll be talking to you about the SDW Substance Use Prevention Committee and the community partnerships that we've been expanding on this year, as well as the strategic prevention framework that is helping to identify some of our needs and our gaps in our system, as well as root causes and the resources tied to those. We'll be giving you an update on the Peers for Peers Club, as well as Too Good for Drugs, and lastly, the Prime for Life early AODA intervention implementation. From here, I will hand it over to Jody.
All right, thank you, Luke. If you can go to the next slide, Stacy. So first, I just really wanted to talk about our growing community partnerships, and really the way that I see this is that the more collaboration, the more resources, the greater impact we can have on our students and families here in the district. The next slide, please. So this past October in 2019, we decided to form the School District of Waukesha Substance Use Prevention Committee. We did this because of the end of the Waukesha Drug-Free Communities Coalition. That had been in existence for about 10 years through a grant, and that grant ended in the end of September of 2019. And so in an effort to kind of keep those community partnerships and collaboration going, we decided to kind of take this on as a district. And with Luke's support, I've been able to coordinate monthly meetings with our community partners, and Elevate, who kind of managed that grant for Waukesha County in the past, agreed to come on with us with no funding to provide expertise and facilitation of the strategic prevention framework for ATODA prevention. And so what that really means is that this strategic prevention framework really does like a full, complete assessment. So like a community assessment looking at everything from income levels in the community to, you know, dropout rates, to like housing costs, and basically all those different things in a community assessment, just to kind of get a feel for our community and what kind of where our community members are at. And then we really look at capacity. So what resources are already in the community? Are there gaps that we need? And so from October until last month, we have really been focusing on those two components of assessment and capacity, really looking at the needs of our students here in the city of Waukesha and our families, and what can we do, what strategy. And now this month, we are starting to look at what strategies and what action plans do we need to put in place. So we're really excited about the partnership that we've had, and just the really the great attendance and participation from our community agencies. If we go to the next slide, it just kind of lists the main 10 or so community partners that we have had attend our monthly meetings. Most monthly meetings that we've had, we actually have more community agencies attend than we do our district stakeholders. So, and that's sometimes because it's during the school day. So not, administrators and or student service personnel can't always leave their building to come to a meeting during the school day. But really, we really have forged some great relationships with the Alcohol Resource Council, with Aurora, Freighter, even Healing Hearts, which really focuses a lot more on grief, but they also are seeing a lot more students with trauma and loss due to drug issues like opiate overdoses and things like that. Pro Healthcare, actually, we were awarded a mini grant last year from Pro Healthcare to support our Peers for Peers clubs. And our school resource officers have been actively involved in this committee as well. So it's just been an interesting journey for myself to kind of head this up and try to coordinate this all. But with the great expertise of Elevate, it's actually been a really great experience so far this year. The next slide, please. And so, as I mentioned, action planning is now going to be taking place for next school year. Through our needs assessment, we've really found a need and a focus area on vaping, on the e-cigarettes, and just the increase. Looking at our data from the Youth Risk Behavior Survey, we really saw that was a need, and also parents. We also are hearing from parents that they wanted more information. So that has been our focus area. Our identified strategies so far have been staff training, parent education, universal curriculum, which we'll talk about is partially in place right now, and awareness campaigns. I've also included a link, so I hope that all the board members have access to these slides afterwards, and I won't go there now, but there is a draft, and it should be finished by the end of the month, of basically an executive summary that outlines all of the work of the committee since October through the end of the school year, and then it will also include our action plans for next school year. Right now, everything's pretty complete in there except for the action planning, as we're continuing to meet weekly to iron out those. All right, next. So that's really been our main focus, is getting that committee up and running. But as Luke mentioned in the beginning, we actually have had a lot of great new things also that we're already in process of implementing. Next, please. The first one I want to highlight is the early intervention for our students who were caught violating the drug or alcohol policy. So last school year, we really were searching. We put it out there to several local agencies that do early intervention and prevention work here in the community to find an evidence-based curriculum that can address the needs of our high school students who were violating the drug or alcohol policy, and went through the pre-expulsion process. And in the past, we would give them information about a free assessment or community resources that the family could follow up on, but there wasn't anything that the student really was had to do, or a way that the district could intervene a little bit more with those students. So we really saw that was a need. And during the summer, we got several proposals back, and we decided that the best fit was to go with Your Choice to Live. And basically, they provided at South, North, and East a group consisting of 8 hours. It was held 2 hours after school, 4 times. So like basically in a 2-week period, the students met 4 times for 2 hours. And it was facilitated by a Your Choice facilitator who had lived experience and was certified in the Prime for Life curriculum. And we had a total of 24 students complete that this past school year. And then also with that, there were 3 scheduled parent nights for quarters 2, 3, and 4. Unfortunately, with our school shutdown, we were only able to have 1 parent night, but we still had a really great turnout of 14 parents attend that first parent night. And so we really felt like this was a good fit, and the students actually, after the first session, seemed to really engage and enjoy it, actually enjoy coming to that group session and kind of discussing things without a school district employee in the room. We were always in the building somewhere, but if need be, but basically they were very open and honest with that facilitator, so she could make appropriate referrals, or let us know maybe who would need some further follow-up. And also, Luke has been working just within the last few months to expand Prime for Life to administrative referral and not just through a pre-expulsion process. Next slide. So these are just some of some feedback that we received. The results that we've gotten, or the kind of the program results or evaluation that we received from Your Choice just this last week, basically 82% of students reported that the program either helped them a lot or somewhat in making a decision about their alcohol and drug choices. And I think that's pretty good, considering that the students that were referred to this program are already in a pretty high risk category, as they were already either using substances at school or bringing them to the school grounds. A parent, it was an unsolicited email that I had received that stated that her daughter had a great time and she learned a lot in the sessions. The daughter felt that, it was a part of her punishment to go to these classes, but she really enjoyed it. And so, and the feedback that I received also at the parent night was very, very favorable. And parents were very thankful that we provided this opportunity for their students and also for them to learn a little bit more about how to address situations when their students are making some really risky choices. Just another couple quotes from students that they indicated in their surveys. One student noted that they feel more educated and realized how negative drugs can be. And also another student stated that they learned how high of risk choices may have huge consequences that could follow them their entire life. One thing to note also is that I would say over 95% of the students that filled out the survey indicated that the facilitator was a huge part of why they felt that this was such a great program, and that is because I think they were able to relate to her and connect with her due to her lived experience having a child that had overdosed and died, actually. So it was very impactful to them. Next. So we implemented the Prime for Life for the first time, and we also were able to continue the prevention curriculum at the middle schools at Butler and Horning, Too Good for Drugs, that we started last school year. So last year we had just started with 6th grade, and then this school year we built upon that and did grades 6 and 7. And this is also due to a partnership and grant funding through Elevate. We actually do not pay anything for this curriculum or for its delivery, as they provide a health educator to come and deliver basically 10 lessons, 1 per week, 45 minutes each, to all of the students in the 6th and 7th grade. So that's a pretty good time commitment, but they were able to obtain some funding through outside sources and offer that to us. So unfortunately, this spring, Horning was only able to get 3 or 4 of the lessons in before we had to go virtual. Those lessons are available virtually, but right now Horning is really wanting to focus on their core content areas and engaging students in the academic learning, which is completely understandable given the situation right now. But we will be sending out a survey to the students, a shortened survey, so that we can also just kind of gather some data to continue to build. And the plan is to continue Too Good for Drugs in both of those middle schools next year for 6th, 7th, and 8th grade as it stands right now. Next. And lastly, I just wanted to highlight a couple really fun events that we did to raise awareness about the danger, not only the dangers of drugs and alcohol and vaping, but also really the theme of positive messaging by being the majority of students who do not use drugs or alcohol. So our Peers for Peers clubs, which are still very active in all three of the traditional high schools, they really planned and participated in two large events, one in the end of September at a West versus North football game, and another in mid-January on a very snowy snowstorm night. We had a girls varsity and boys varsity basketball games between South and West. And basically there was lots of signage, and the messaging came through the announcers, and also a resource fair where there were several community partners available as well. But really just to provide information to parents and for our students, our Peers for Peers clubs to stand up and say, hey, like, join us, be the majority of those who don't use drugs and alcohol. And they also provided some fun activities for the middle schoolers at the games. Since I haven't worked in the traditional high schools, I had no idea how big these games are for middle schoolers to come to. And so it was really nice. We actually had some meaningful activities for them to do, trivia, and some other things, and an escape the vape room at the basketball game where they had to answer questions to unlock different clues and things like that, to like an escape room experience. So I'm really, really proud of our Peers for Peers clubs and our advisors at those high schools that coordinated to put on those events. And I think the parents were also very, very thankful for those as well. But that kind of wraps it up and kind of summarizes our activities for the year. There's a lot that goes behind the scenes for those activities, but I think all in all, we really accomplished a lot this school year and have a really good plan going forward. Does anybody have any questions?
That's good. Mr. Como.
Thank you, Greg. I have three questions, Jody. One, what percentage of students need assistance with addictions?
So
maybe that's a rolling number, you know?
Yes. So I don't know like the percent, and maybe Luke can but basically all of those who were referred by Luke through a pre-expulsion agreement, all of them completed the Prime for Life class, except for two students who actually ended up withdrawing from the district before the class started. So they weren't like non-compliant. They moved. I think one went into the Challenge Academy. So I don't know what the percentage that would be, but I can give you the YRBS data, like of students who report using, some substance, or, that's kind of broken down between vaping, alcohol, marijuana use. And
I would say that would probably be the best answer to get the data that you're looking for, is to pull out some of the district data points from the last YRBS. That would give you a really good indication of the level of usage that's occurring in our student body.
I can say that the comparisons that we just have done, our students are using less than the state average, or at least they're reporting their usage is less than the state average. So I think that's a really good thing. We do seem to have some discrepancies at the different high schools, and that's one of the reasons why our committee is really looking at going forward. Where do we need to place our efforts and our resources and our focus to try to make sure that we're serving all students and we're really getting the messaging out there in the education and awareness. And also just looking at some of our groups, our subgroups, such as our LGBT youth and our Hispanic youth, are actually more at risk for substance use disorders.
Okay, so that survey information you could get to us, Luke?
Absolutely can. Yeah, I'm just trying to scroll through my little, and actually it's going to be.
Send it to me later, and we'll get it to the board in an email later on.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, there's no need to go through but that would be great to send it to us. We appreciate that. With respect to the planning and strategies that you guys are working on, one of your target groups is parent participation. Can you maybe talk a little bit on some of the strategies of, bringing the parents into the process here?
Yes. So this past school year, we did have a couple parent education events. We had one at East that East hosted during a parent like family engagement night. And we also had one at Horning um, during a parent teacher conference night. And so um, trying to kind of schedule those on during other events where parents are likely to be at the school, trying to strategize because we just know that parents are very busy and overall parental involvement at kind of school events outside of school hours is usually pretty low. So this school year or in our planning, we've also discussed how to reach parents virtually, kind of in short videos that at least they might click on and like listen to, even if they're just like in 5-minute increments. But trying to do different events. We also have Maria Peters, who is our community liaison, who is trained now in, I don't know the exact term, but she's trained in the backpack, so she can train parents what to look for and like how kids hide different substances in just everyday items and like in their backpack in their room. And so she was able to be trained by Your Choice to provide that to our bilingual or our Spanish speaking parents. Because that was one of the barriers a lot of the times, is that we didn't have the parent education always readily available in Spanish, or translating was okay, but it just wasn't as a good of experience for those parents. So Maria sought out that training and was able to get that from Your Choice.
I appreciate that. And my last question deals with, as we're in a virtual environment, how has that impacted you as a social worker? I mean, being face to face is the best, obviously, but could you kind of go through what you've had to do to change, and have there been some things that you've had to do differently to, build that relationship and really, get to the substance as you're working with your students?
Yeah, absolutely. So my time in the district is split. Basically, I'm like 60% at East as the social worker, and then I'm like 40% as the AODA coordinator. And honestly, in the past, when you're doing face-to-face, in school services, it probably was a little bit different, right? Like usually it was more face-to-face services with my East students that were very needy and in crisis a lot of the time, and in my office. And then I would kind of do the catch-up AODA work, at home or have to do it other places. So I feel like that's kind of flip-flopped during this time, is where I've actually been able to do a lot more and focus a lot more on the AODA planning and work at home. But then also with my students at East, I've definitely seen them struggle. A lot of them who I used to be able just to chit chat with in the hallway, or when they're coming in late, or those types of things, those students have not really been engaging virtually, at least not like they don't want to do a video chat. And I really thought like our high school students would be okay with video chatting, but there's a few that really like to, but the rest really don't. So it's a lot of emailing, and they'll email back and forth. It's just a lot of reaching out. And of course at East, we do have a very at risk or at potential, I like to say, population, but they're not the most engaged in the first place. That's why they're with us. And so to try to engage them on this virtual platform has definitely been a challenge. I think our teachers have really stepped it up. We've offered many different ways that students can engage. And I definitely have still a core group of students that really want that check-in, sometimes almost daily. They'll message me or they'll send me a picture. We've done some fun challenges just to get students engaged. Like this week, I do these little quarantine corner WebEx spaces. And so this week I've asked everybody to post a picture with their pet if they have one, but if they don't have one, they should post a picture with their stuffed animal or draw a picture of a pet. And so I took a video. I own a horse, and so when I was out at the barn, I took a video of me and my horse so they could meet my horse, because they always hear about my horse anyway. So but I couldn't
Mr.
believe
Ed?
today the WebEx space, like it blew up. Like even students who didn't have a pet at home, they made a video of themselves with a stuffed animal cat or a stuffed animal dog. I mean, so, you know, and these are like 17, 18-year-old students. So I think they just really want that social interaction. But I still feel very, like, you know, those students that aren't reaching out, those students that aren't engaging, of course, we're very worried about them.
Sure.
And also just the potential for them not to be coping very well with this whole situation puts them at risk, obviously, for using substances more so than even that they might have done in the past. So just
Well,
trying.
I appreciate your analysis and you sharing that with us. And I thought there would be some more difficulties encountered in the virtual environment. And you know, we can only do the best we can do, right? And try and get the students to engage and reach out. And thank you for what you do and how you go about doing it. And I hope we can stay in touch with the students enough to help them with these addictions right now.
Yes, thank you.
Mr. Baumgart, did you have a question?
Well, the questions have been well answered. Quite simply, Jody, you shared with us some stuff with Joe's questions there that were very interesting and not necessarily out in the open for us. Those things are going on. But more on a general basis, I'd like to simply say, you know, the fact that you have educated us a little bit more on what goes on behind, you use the term behind the scenes, things that you guys are working on that we don't often think about from day to day. Yet to see that they're extremely important. And I know we got a lot of kids that we need to be concerned about how they're dealing with these things. So I just want to say thank you to you and Luke about sharing this with us, because I found it to be very enlightening, I guess is a good word. So that's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Anything else from any committee members? Jody, what's the best way for students or parents to contact you? How do they know about you and your role and what you do in the district?
So, so as far as the AODA coordination, coordinating the Prime for Life curriculum, I actually sent personal emails to all the parents whose students were referred, and kind of reminded them of when the classes were starting, and then sent them another reminder about the parent nights, and really try to keep in touch with them that way. And then also letting them know that there's resources. I've also sent out some additional resources during this time in case they needed to reach out to community agencies as well.
Very good. Really appreciate all that you're doing for our students and staff, and really making a difference in a lot of lives out there. And I really appreciate all your extra efforts.
Well, thank you.
So Greg, I have a question.
Yes. Mr. O'Brien.
Yeah. Hey, Jody, or maybe Luke, when you made up or I shouldn't say, when you described the list of substances, you didn't mention opiates or meth. And you would think that would still be a relatively significant problem for abuse with our kids, right? One or both of those?
I mean, I can speak that our data shows that it's a pretty low, like less than 1% of students that use other drugs other than marijuana and alcohol. So although it's there, it hasn't been as prevalent as it is, I feel like, in the community with adults, with young adults, or, you know, students over the age of 18.
So is it going undetected? I mean, it sounds like our program is more of a, you know, sometimes we discover it, sometimes it's self-disclosure. Is it possible we're not detecting meth and opiate use in our schools?
I'm not sure if it's about not detecting. I think when you think about the universal program, I would imagine, and I'm not as familiar with the Too Good for Drugs as Jody is, but that is all encompassing when it comes to all drugs and education around that. So it's not that it's going uneducated or anything like that, but in the schools, as far as what our administrators are finding or what students are coming to the school under the influence of, we're just not seeing the data show the same numbers at all, or even close to that we do for alcohol and marijuana and those kinds of drugs.
Well, it just seems kind of interesting because, I know other communities in state and out state where meth is a huge problem, especially amongst lower income people. And opiates used to be a large problem some time back. And it's in the young adult group, it's normally starting before that. Just because it gets detected when they're 18 and 19, once they get out into the other world, I'm just kind of concerned that we're not picking those up. Maybe we're not engaged with that community maybe as well as if that is occurring out there, how would we know or not know?
Yeah, and I would say, from working with probably the most at-risk students in the district at East, anecdotally, I have heard of some students dabbling with like opiate prescription pill abuse, but very few. And really, I've not heard of any students, or even having like reported of students telling me that they're concerned about their friends of using meth at all. Although those are definitely topics that are covered in our prevention curriculum, as well as the Prime for Life curriculum as well. I think it's dabbling. And this is probably just my hypothesis, but I think by the time students get to really heavy like heroin use or meth use, they're probably not in school anymore at all. Unfortunately, they probably already made that decision to stop attending or to drop out. I've definitely heard of prior students, but definitely the education and the help is there as far as our student services team to be equipped to deal with that in our high schools. I feel all of our social workers and our counselors are aware of those signs and symptoms. So we're hoping that we do notice.
I'm just stunned because, I know the Potawatomi, they've lost a significant number of young tribal members to meth and opiate overdoses. And they're putting a lot of money and effort into fighting it. And, state of South Dakota has put a lot of effort into meth problems. So I would be kind of wondering if we're not getting enough information about what's going on.
Say we're certainly open to suggestions.
I wouldn't know what the suggestion would be, I can tell you that. But I just think we just need to be, if there's a way we can find out from the county or from the, our partnership with the police as to whether we're missing that or not. Not that we're trying to be policemen or anything like that, but we do want to address it with the kids if that's a problem.
Absolutely.
Yep. And we do have shared community partners who are also on like the heroin task force in Waukesha County. So we can definitely tap into them and discuss it at our committee meetings as well.
Yeah, it just seems odd to me that we don't have more of a detection of that based on what I'm seeing elsewhere. So, okay, thanks.
Ms. Landish, did you have a question or comment?
No, I just want to make sure you saw Mr. O'Brien.
Okay, yep.
Thank you, Jody.
Looking out for you, Kurt.
Anything else for Jody or for Luke? Well, thank you very much for the complete overview, for answering our questions. We look forward to updates in the future. Keep up the good work. You're doing a lot of good things for our kids and our staff. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Your parents.
Thank you.
Have a good evening, Jody. See you, Luke. We're moving on now to other business. Are there any recommendations from any committee members for future meetings? Seeing none,
One of the things, Greg,
go ahead, Mr.
one of the things
Brett.
we should cover in detail is, since we've had 2 months of experience with our forced education platform offline, I think it would be nice to have a review of that at the next CNI meeting. I'm hearing mixed things. People think we do a good job. They're very pleased that we were ahead of the game for what we're doing right now. They're also saying that, God forbid, they'd have to continue this into next year. They're not blaming us. It's just that they don't feel it's the right school experience for their kids. And if there's something we can do towards the end of the school year to try and spice up the system, to have them go into a happy period going into the start of next school year, that would be nice. Whether it's an all-school picnic or something like that, to just get the kids together once this thing gets resolved, right? If it gets resolved sometime during the summer.
Sure.
Okay?
Okay, sounds good. Anything else from any committee members for future meetings? Okay, it looks like we've come to the end of our meeting. This meeting is going to be adjourned at this time. Thank you for all of your participation this evening. The next Teaching and Learning Committee will be scheduled for Tuesday, June 2nd, 2020. And I assume virtually, but that'd be a great thing if it wasn't. We'll wait and see. So thank you everyone for your involvement and participation tonight. Really appreciate everything you do for the entire district. Special thank you to Stacy Koss-Schmidt for organizing tonight's meeting and coordinating everything behind the scenes. We really appreciate all your extra work, Stacy. Thank you very much. Have a good evening, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Be well.
Nice. Stacy, you gonna stay on a second?
Sure.